Welcome back, drummers, to Class 2 of the Virtual Education Program presented by the Stern Grove Festival Association. I'm Dr. Jaz Sawyer, and I am very happy to be back with you for Class 2. And we're going to be talking about call and response today and what that means and how we use that in musical terms. We're also going to talk about how to start and stop, very important, in using what we call a cue, right, a musical cue. We're also going to discuss how important it is to keep the groove, okay? So when you're keeping the groove, always have fun with it. And we're also going to help you determine which instrument you want to play. So what voice or instrument, which percussion or drum instrument really resonates with you, right? And it doesn't matter how small or big, as long as you participate, your instrument will definitely get to shine. Call and response. One of the elements used in music today that comes out of the African diaspora. And one way, again, to define the African diaspora is a collective understanding of cultures and ideals and how we all relate to the music. Okay? So in this sense, when we're talking about call and response, we're specifically talking about a musical phrase. Okay? So, for example, the drum or the musical phrase will have a call, and then the other person or group will respond. Okay? So there's different ways of call and responding. You can do something similar, right? Or you can do the exact thing. But more importantly, or more specifically, we're looking at call and response, responding to the call that was just made. Okay? So here's some examples. What I'll do, as you can see, I have my conga drum here, and I'll play my left hand with the call, and I'll use the side of the drum as my response. Okay? So here we go. Something simple at first. Okay? Here's another one. All right. So you can see where we're going with this. So let's try a little more complicated. Right? Okay, again, so what you're hearing is I'm responding pretty much in the same tempo, right? But it doesn't necessarily have to be, but what you do have to do is make sure when you are responding specific, or especially in a group, right? You want to be on the same page. Remember how we talked about in the intro to drumming, rhythm is connected to our mind, body, and spirit. So you're going to have to use a lot of eye contact and your ears so you guys are all on the same page. So here's a call and response example, not so much in tempo, okay? Okay, see that? It was kind of a subtle cue, but I use my head nod, and especially if you're in a group of folks, at least more than two, right? You want to make sure you're on the same page. So now I'll try one not in tempo, right? So remember what we talked about in our intro to drumming is that rhythm is, you have to use your mind, body, and spirit and use all those tools you have. So you definitely have to use your eyes and your ears to watch and listen, especially if you're in a group of more than two people, right? So for example. Okay, so somewhat still in time, just not, the response is not immediate, and that's okay too, right? Because you have to have that moment or so to process what you just heard. Here's another one. Okay, good. Let's try a more complicated one. So here's some more examples. have my cowbell, I can do the same type of thing, right? Because remember, I have my two different tones here. I have my high tone, and I have my low tone. Okay? So here we go. I'll give it a little tempo for us. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? I can also do that not in tempo as well, right? So let me try that. Okay, so when you're usually given that head nod, or maybe it's with the drumstick or your hand, right? You want to make sure that basically what you're giving is that signal for the first beat. So that's where you really want to use your eyes and ears to understand at least where the tempo is, right? So for example, if I did a really fast one and I responded slow, that may not be a correct musical call and response, right? So for example, okay, so it's the same rhythm, but because it's so far out of tempo, the call and response is a little late. Okay, it's more like call me later. Okay, so let's try that again. Okay, so as you can see, I played the first one slower, the call slower, and then the response faster. And as you can see, it doesn't really call and respond so well. Okay, so call and response is really responding to the musical phrase that you just heard. And that's one we're going to be using a lot in our drum circle. So I'll try one with just the conga drum. Okay, and I'll try one out of tempo. Right? I can do a call and response even on the maracas. We mentioned briefly about stopping on the downbeat, but something very important for musicians to know is when to start and when to stop. And this is what we call cueing the band, or cueing the intro, or cueing the out section. So a cue is just to let everyone know what's going to happen, right? And we've already determined what our musical arrangement is, so we know if we're going to be starting or stopping, right? At the beginning of the song, we're obviously going to be starting, and at the end, the cue is we are going to end the song, okay? So for our purposes of the drum circle, what we're going to use is we're going to use a head nod for our cue, all right? And the reason for that is depending on if I'm playing drums and I'm giving the call, or someone else is playing the sticks, right? You wouldn't want to disrupt your rhythm by saying, hey, everybody, look at me, right? Because we have to make sure we're always communicating so we understand what's coming up next musically. Okay, so let's do this. What we're going to do is I'm going to do 3 call and responses, okay? Then we're going to start our tempo, right? And I'm going to give the cue, and we're going to do 3 call and responses out. Okay, so once again, we're going to do 3 call and responses. We're going to set our tempo, and I'll give the cue to do our 3 call and responses on the way out, as we say, right? On the way out of the song. Okay, let's see how it goes. So I'm going to make sure everybody's ready, right? And what you're going to be doing is listening for that. And again, if you want to try this, you can, if you don't have your instrument handy, you can just do a clap or even use your legs. Okay, so here we go. Push this back a little bit. It's the second one. Third one. tempo. Okay, get ready. I'm going to give my cue. Okay, good. So a lot of head nods there, but we knew that there's going to be 3 call and responses going out. So we know after that third one, we have to end together. Okay? So again, the cue to start and stop, very, very important. And again, if we're playing tempo, right, we'll have a head nod, or if you're the conductor, right, or you have another way of doing it, you're only playing one instrument, you can give a pound sign and give a fist, or you can give a 1, right? Or you can do an elbow pump. Okay, any of those will work. What's most important is that we know when to start and stop together, and that's how we'll really sound good as a unit. So what we'll do is give you a snapshot preview of what we're going to be doing for our drum circle. So what I'll do is I'll do 2 call and responses, then I'll play in time. I'll play a rhythm, a tempo for maybe 8 bars or 4 bars, right? And then I'll give myself a cue, and we will end with 2 call and responses, and then we will end together on just a beat 1. Okay, so that may or may not be in tempo. So let me give you an example of the end of that. Okay, so 2 call and responses, and then a downbeat all together. Okay. So we understand what call and response is, and we talked about keeping the tempo and going into our beat in between those call and responses. But something very important along with your tempo is keeping the groove. Okay, so it's one thing to keep the tempo, it's another thing to keep the groove. And what that means is really putting your soul and the fun and excitement and the love that you and passion that you have for the instrument, right? Doesn't matter if you're playing a cowbell or clapping, you still want to keep the groove and always make it feel good. Okay? So for example, let's do 1 call and response, and then I'm going to go into my groove, right? So now if I just play time, or I don't put all of my mind, body, and spirit into it, the music might not move me as a listener, might not sound that good. Okay, so watch this. First call and response. Here's my groove. Okay, not that exciting, right? So now I'm going to put all of my passion and love I have for the instrument in that same pattern. All right, let's try a little cowbell groove. Okay, again, it doesn't matter what instrument you're playing, just make sure you give it your all, and most importantly, have fun with it. Now we're going to talk about choosing your instrument. So as we talked about in class 1, we learned the difference between stick drumming and hand drumming, right? And then there's instruments or devices or kitchenware you can use as an instrument, okay? So you don't have any excuse to not have picked out an instrument. But what's more important is you want to figure out, do you like more of the hand drumming or the stick drumming? And do you like the bigger sounding drums or the smaller size instruments, right? And how much that you want to participate in the drum circle. Maybe you just want to learn some of these smaller parts in the beginning, which is fine. Or maybe you want to come out as an alpha and get right to the big drums that are, really fill up the room. Okay? So again, we have our conga drum here. And for hand drumming, right? It's just a matter of, do you like playing with your hands, right? Okay. Now again, we have a cowbell here. So what's cool about this is you have a little bit of, it's all hand drumming, really, right? But this one has a stick drum, so kind of falls in that stick drumming category. And so, do you like playing with the one stick? That's one reason to figure out what you like to play, right? Okay. Also, we have our claves, right? Another cool instrument. Okay, so again, finding the sound that you like. No one else can choose the sound that you like. So that's why you want to think about what it is you like. We also have our shakers, right? So you have all these kind of options. And remember, we talked about in class 1 where you can buy egg shakers at your local music store, right? Or just any type of shaker. So maybe you like to shake things up, right? Or you just like to play a small part in the drum circle. And that's okay too, because every part is important. Okay? The maracas are kind of cool too, or the maracas, if you will. And you can do same thing. You can shake these guys up, or you can swirl them, right? So you can sustain or keep those long notes. And you can play rhythms too, right? A little slower. Right? I can even use one hand and just do a simple pattern. Okay, good. And then again, taking my wood block, my modern wood block, of course, again, using a drumstick. Maybe that's the sound I like. Let's see. Here we go. Right? Nice, simple sound. Doesn't ring like a cowbell. You're just in and out. Okay, and again, some of those traditional wood blocks might just rest on the table there, right? Okay, and that's okay too. And you might even play with 2 drumsticks. All right, maybe the tambourine. Maybe you like the idea of doing hand drumming, but you're not ready to go full force with a conga drum or maybe the bongo drum or even your spaghetti pot, right? Maybe you want to take it easy on your hands first because over time you will develop some calluses, but that means you're getting really good. Okay, but to start out, maybe the tambourine is a good one for you. You got those jingle jangles, right? So you can get some shakers in there too. And with the hand, right? So you have a kind of the best of both worlds, right? You got some shakers and you're able to play with your hand, right? Okay, so even stick drumming. So you don't have to have a snare drum to play stick drumming, right? You can almost take any of the instruments here and put them on a table, maybe put a towel under them or a washcloth, right? So they don't move around. And the problem is the cowbell won't ring as much, but you'll still be able to get play with the sticks, right? And that's always really fun. So even if you have a snare drum, you don't have to just use the drum head. You can use different parts of the snare too, right? And that gives some more interesting sounds. Okay, so I want to be clear. You don't have to play, really complicated to sound good. Okay, so you can play simple. Just because you're playing the sticks doesn't mean you have to be able to do a double stroke roll really, really fast. It's just more about what your preference is and how you like to play, right? With your hands or with the drumsticks, right? Let's go back to our eighth notes and quarter notes. Okay, we'll do some combinations with that. drummers, congratulations. We have completed Class 2 of the Virtual Education Program presented by the Stern Grove Festival Association. So we always want to give a shout out to the great team for helping us put this together. So today, again, we talked about call and response, how we use that in music. We also talked about starting and stopping and how we can give cues so we know when to come in on the music. The importance of keeping the groove. Remember, always have fun and give your all into whatever rhythm or beat you're playing. And then finally, we talked about choosing the instrument that's right for you. Okay, so it doesn't matter the size of your instrument. It just matters that your voice is heard. And as long as you're participating, that's what counts. Okay, so we will see you for Class 3 coming up, where we'll discuss more about our drum circle. So signing off again, I'm Dr. Jaz Sawyer, and we'll see you for the next class.